Metroid is pretty awesome. The games, the music, the characters, everything. But the franchise wouldn't be where it is now without key influences. Be it people, other franchises, real-life events, and so on, many things have helped Metroid along the way and even at its beginnings. Let's go over all that I could find that got Metroid to where it is today. Let's start off with the most obvious and most infamous example of Metroid's inspiration. Every ounce of the Alien franchise can be found in Metroid games. From the fact that both franchises star female leads, the tone in horror and isolation, and even the designs for the main antagonists of the series, in Ridley and the Xenomorph. The developers took full inspiration from the first Alien film with its art style, eerie, unsettling music and setting, and even the name of the alien's creator, Ridley Scott, which would later be the name of Samus' arch-nemesis, Ridley. For those that are not aware, the designer of the environments and creatures in the Alien franchise was H.R. Giger. His designs would later inspire the designs of the environments and creatures in the Metroid franchise. Clearer examples of inspirations are, as mentioned earlier, in Ridley, the Metroids themselves, the stories, and Samus herself. Ridley's design is very reminiscent of the Xenomorph. Even how he uses his tail is very like how they use it. The Xenomorph's influence goes even further in the series' namesake in the Metroids. The stages in the Metroid life cycle reflect the stages that the Xenomorph goes under. They start from an egg, which hatches into the first stage, they mature and go under metamorphosis, and finally develop into a queen, which lays the eggs and the cycle repeats. This is at least the natural cycle for the Metroids. The way the larval stages of the creatures attack is identical, and even the Zeta Metroid is practically a Xenomorph. The way it introduces itself is frame by frame how the Xenomorph does the same job. It's iconic to the series. Not to mention that the Zeta Metroid looks and acts identically to how a Xenomorph does. And if the inspiration wasn't clear enough, there is literally an enemy in Metroid Prime Hunter's first hunt called Xenomorph. You can't really get more concrete than that. There are still some things from the Alien series that inspired Metroid. This is, of course, the story and settings. As mentioned earlier, the original Metroid took a lot of inspiration from the first Alien, where the protagonist, Ellen Ripley, encounters the Xenomorph and defeats the beast single-handedly. Granted, about half a dozen people died already, but that's not the point. Samus does the same thing. She encounters and defeats the Metroids single-handedly. Then in the second installment of the franchise, we'll ignore Prime for now for simplicity's sake, the protagonists visit the alien namesake's homeworld to confront the queen of the species and come away with a child. And then, in the fourth installment, the protagonists become a part of the main alien by having the DNA of said alien in their bodies. It is also revealed that the Galactic Federation wished to use the Metroids as bioweapons, much like how Weyland-Yutani Corporation wants to use the Xenomorphs as bioweapons, even going so far as cloning Ripley to get the Xenomorph that was in her chest at the time of her death. The Galactic Federation also collected a sample of the Super Metroid from Samus' suit to clone it. To round out the inspirations to the Alien franchise, let's take a look at the Prime series. It should be noted that the stories of the games aren't as copy-paste from the Alien films as the mainline games, though that doesn't mean elements from the films aren't there. The most direct example of inspiration is found in Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, and it is the entire opening segment of the game. It is also inspired by the entire opening segment of Aliens. The main protagonist is called to go to a planet where soldiers were last located and had sent a distress call. They both arrive onto the planet to find everything is dead and infested with bugs, and the bases of the soldiers were built on top of hives. The main protagonist is attacked by the main alien threat, which acts as a hive mind, acting out orders from their monarch. And to round it all off, the storyboards for Samus's and Dark Samus's first encounter explicitly state that the scene is to look exactly how Ripley stood off against the Queen alien, specifically their first scene together. So I think it's safe to say this franchise owes a lot to the Alien franchise. It's amazing how something can seemingly rip off another franchise, but evolve into its own thing and universe. Now, let's talk about Samus Aran herself, and what led to her creation. First of all, the whole reason she exists as she does. During the development of the original Metroid for the Nintendo Entertainment System, an unnamed employee at Nintendo famously said, "Hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if it turned out that the person inside this suit was a woman?" The idea possibly stemmed from the fact that the game's inspiration, Alien, had a female lead in Ripley, and so the two would fill the same role. Though this wasn't all that inspired Ripley for Samus. The personality that Samus is largely known for, if we're discounting other M, is a mix between Ripley and Princess Leia from Star Wars. Her design is also largely inspired by the actress Kim Basinger. From Super Metroid onwards, this was the design for Samus. Although this has started to deviate a little bit into a more original look. Samus' name also originates from the female variant of Seamus. However, her last name is directly inspired by the footballer, Edson Arantes de Nascimento, also known as Pele. The name of the franchise also owes itself to Samus and her design, as in the original Metroid, she had a much more android-like appearance, and it was the Rhoade part in Android that was used in the name of the Metroid franchise. And finally, regarding Samus herself, The reveal of Samus being a woman may have also been inspired by the ending of Alien, types of clothing included. The Metroid series was inspired by a few other things too, but I just put them all in this segment as there isn't enough for their own individual ones. As covered in my previous video, the art, buildings, and designs of the Chozo are largely inspired by ancient Egyptians and other ancient civilizations, though the Egyptian inspiration is the most obvious. That's not the only thing that was inspired by ancient civilizations, however. A lot of the vehicles and machines in the Metroid franchise are named after various mythological creatures, locations, and characters. As an example, the GFS Tyr is named after the Norse god of single combat and victory, Tyr. The planet of SR388 was inspired by a motorcycle engine of all things. The engine was the SR400 Yamaha, though the name is slightly misleading as the actual power of the engine was only 388cc, and so the name of the planet was decided. The gameplay for the original Metroid is largely inspired by The Legend of Zelda's exploration and Super Mario Bros.' way of control. The upgrade system can also be assumed to be a mixture of The Legend of Zelda's and Super Mario Bros. Item and power-up systems. And that's not all that Metroid owes The Legend of Zelda. The light and dark aspect for Metroid Prime 2 Echoes was practically ripped off of A Link to the Past. The developers of Echoes even went so far as to ask the developers of A Link to the Past for help on how to create the worlds that they wanted. The visor system in the Prime series was inspired by a little riddle that the legendary Shigeru Miyamoto told Retro during a visit. What if Samus could take off her head, and maybe put a head on that had bug eyes, or a head that saw in the dark, or whatever, just switch heads? Which understandably confused the team. However, they came to understand it as saying that Samus could perceive the world differently through different ways of seeing, X-ray vision, echolocation, and so on. The manual for Samus Returns references the infamous "Why can't Metroid crawl" meme, and it even gives a response to it here. Not really an inspiration or anything, I just thought this was cool to include. Sounds from the Godzilla franchise were used for the bosses in Super Metroid. I would say this is inspired, but it's kinda stealing when you think about it. And last but not least, the origins of the Leviathan in the Metroid Prime series may have been inspired by Howard Phillips Lovecraft's short story, The Color Out of Space, where the story depicts a meteor that falls to the planet and slowly poisons and corrupts the soil and the planet itself. So those were all the things that inspired or influenced Metroid. Things that I could find at least. I'm sure Nintendo was inspired to make good Metroid games again after Other M Federation, but that's just what I think. What did you guys think of this video? I hope you liked it, and this video was brought to you by Rhoades, who is my $50 patron. He suggested this video and I loved making it. I learned a few things while making it too, so this was a fun one to make. This is a perk of being a $50 patron. You get to personally request a video for me to make, and that will be the next video that would be made, after the one I'm already working on is done anyway. So thank you so much, Randy. This was a great suggestion, and it was fun to make. Thank you for being a patron. Thank you also to Metroid X Productions for being the $1 patron. Thank you so much for the support, guys. It really means a lot, especially right now. Another thank you goes to Ryou for making the icon for this channel. You can check out his work in the description below, and he has commissions open too. So if you want clean art, go see him. Also, I'm going to be answering a question from you guys every single week, so leave a comment down below with the hashtag AskTMG. I'll pick one and answer it in the next video. I love reading you guys' comments and answering questions. If you guys want to see more Metroid content like this, click that subscribe button and that bell to get notified when I upload. I upload once every week on Friday, but it doesn't hurt to get reminded. Leave a like too, as it really helps this channel and me out. And follow me on Twitter. I want to be able to talk to more of you guys. And you can even join my Discord, it's always open. So with that, I'm that Metroid guy, and I will see you in the next mission. Bye bye.